So, Neneh, today you went back to the police station. Can you tell us what are the police saying? Why were you at the police station today?
It was a very interesting day today, Lamin. We were asked yesterday to come and report back in the morning at 9 o'clock um, for them to arraign us before the courts. Because again, our attorney was insisting that they need to make a determination since we've already been charged. So with that pressure, they said, okay, we're going to go to court today in the morning, and they explained that when we report in the morning, they will take us to Canifin police station where the prosecution team sits. Then they will be the ones to take us to court before a judge or magistrate. So we came with that expectation, and we arrived, and that's when everybody started jumping around, putting things together. When we arrived, they were still collecting statements from supposedly the complainants or the people that arrested us. Because as of yesterday, there was nothing apart from our cautionary statements and the charge sheet, voluntary statement, which has nothing anyways, because we didn't say anything. So finally, when they got all the statements, or when they got all the statements they could get, we were escorted to Canifin. And when we got to Canifin, the officer that escorted us took the file to the OC, who reviewed the file, and after maybe 30, 45 minutes, made calls back to Keraba, telling them that he does not think that this is what prosecuting, or there is no substantial evidences that they can go to court to use to prosecute us, and therefore he can't do anything. And because he's also a landed person, a legal, a lawyer. And he wrote a note as well in regards to that. So we were sent back to Keraba. When we went back to Keraba, again, they were like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then we were told that, well, this Bijilo, where the incident happened, or the alleged incident happened, is in the jurisdiction of Brusubi, so we are going to send the file to Brusubi. And whatever they determine, there is a court in Brusubi, maybe you guys will be arraigned there. And maybe after another 30 minutes or so, we were told that, oh no, we will send you, now you're going back to Canifin. We've consulted with them. So they took us back to Canifin. And mind you, this was all in our own cars, because the police don't have a car or vehicle to do this. So basically we were putting them on our cars, going back and forth all these places. So we got to Canifin for the second time, and the OC met with the prosecution team in his office, asking us to excuse them. So they talked and later invited us in and told us to be honest. We just realized that there is a judgment from the High Court, and that supersedes our powers. We can only act if there is anything else coming from a higher court saying anything different, then we can act based on that. But otherwise, we cannot do anything. So we at this point in time, our hands are tied. So they did consultations as well with the superiors at the head office, because I think the commissioner of prosecutions sits in Banjul, the police headquarters. So they were advised to send the file to Banjul. So they sent us, escorting us with the file to Banjul yet again. So we met the commissioner in Banjul, who prior to meeting us also had a review of the file with his team. So later on, he met us in his office with two of his staff. I think he called them his assistants, and told us, well, asked us what happened, which was funny. I thought he would have been briefed, or he will look at the file and to be able to understand or know what he needed to do. But again, that comes to tell you that there was nothing in the file that anybody can make sense out of to be able to act or make a decision. So our attorney had to explain briefly the genesis of what has happened and what led to where we are and why we were sent there. So his response was he will also have to consult with his superiors for a way forward, but they may have to send the file to the AG chambers. And he said that with emphasis, we may have to send the file to the AG chambers. But in the interim, he will extend the bail to tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., but later I guess they understand 9 is too early because they don't get to work early, said, okay, 10 o'clock is a reasonable time, which I think one of the assistants raised concern that 9 was too early to make it 10 o'clock. So they say we should report back at 10 o'clock for them to tell us the way forward. So as we stand, I mean, there is no determination. We've been going back and forth, and everybody seemed not to know what to do. And every time any one of them learned that there is a judgment, and we were given possession by the sheriff, you know, they tend to raise eyebrows and ask themselves, what should I do with this? This is beyond me. So this is where we are. So I don't know what they're going to consult and what they will come out with, whether they will send it to the AG chambers or not. We will wait and see. It's becoming interesting by the day.
So here's the thing. You were charged by police for criminal trespass, malicious damage to property.
Malicious
Injury to property.
Yes, that's what
This
is
is
on the charge.
malicious injury to property. And then the Attorney General Chambers issue a statement to say that you entered a property that is under litigation.
Okay, I will be happy to make that clarification. You have seen the court judgment, that there is an existing court judgment. And it is only a court of competence or a higher court that can overturn or set aside that judgment. What had happened, what they're referring to, I want to believe, is because this judgment was, the first judgment was obtained in 2019 from the magistrate court. Then another judgment was obtained in 2020 from the High Court in the Court of Justice Achibongo. So now the sheriff acted based on that judgment to give us possession in June, to be specific, June 3rd. But at the time, the anti-crime were still were occupying the place. But they raised concerns that for security reasons, we had already started work and even poured sand and brought in some workers to weld the doors and make some doors where we can keep our work materials and our workers can use to save their things. They granted us access to do all that. But when they raised a concern about security reason, everybody coming in, I even had to go ahead and print visitors cards that I even gave them copies for them to know that anybody that comes in our name without that card, then it is not under our authority. So they were cooperating, so we started to work. But later on, I was advised by my people, since they've raised security concerns, I think it would be nice for us to be patient and just let them be, since they say they're really finding a place to go. Okay, the Interior Minister had told us repeatedly he is working vigorously to get the authorities to get them a place so that he can move the anti-crime. So let's give them time. So that's when we halted and stopped all work, all right? The rooms that we made are still there, all right? We still have the keys. When we go, we open and get in, all right? So now, when the anti-crime finally moved, okay, well, in the interim, we had filed a process in court telling the court that they need to enforce the judgment, the existing judgment, because the sheriff also were having not having cooperation from the IGP. When the sheriff execute a judgment, it's the police that help them to enforce or for the execution, but they were not getting the cooperation of the police to enforce the judgment. So that was also the hindrance, I mean, the challenge that they complained to us. So now we went back to court and filed a process called the mandemos, that is to tell the court that can you please enforce the judgment that you've already given us. All right. So now if the anti-crime had moved, which means that process has been overtaken by events. It serves no purpose anymore because the judgment, the process was only saying, it wasn't saying anything else but court, please enforce the judgment that you already give us. So it has no relevance anymore. It has been overtaken by event. So if the AG is referring to that judgment, I think they ought to know better. They really need to advise themselves well before they come out with statements that really is an insult to their person or their institutions.
Do you know at all whether they have instituted a countersuit? A legal action?
Not to our knowledge, not to our attorney's knowledge. And may I say this, even if they wanted to, I think they don't have the time right now. Time have elapsed because when we got that judgment in 2020, I mean, they had done not, because they came to court and conceded. Okay, they conceded and said, we don't have a case, we are conceding. Even to the 500,000, half a million claims of damage we asked for, they considered and said, yes, we will pay in court. The judge gave a judgment. So what are you going to appeal against? They had an opportunity, it's their right to appeal, but the time that the law gave them to appeal has elapsed. So they were left with no option. There was no possibility of appealing apart from the mandamus that I said was filed by us, and that has been overtaken by events. So what are they talking about? They mentioned two processes. Which process? They cannot be processes in court going when we are not aware. We are a party to it. We will be served and we will be answerable to those processes. So how come we are not aware of those judgments? So it's really bogus, and it's just a way of, the trend yet again that they always play with people's mind.
How did you get this land?
How did we get it? It was assigned to us through the Alcalo of Bijilo and the Gambia government because of the works we were doing. Like I said before, the organization has been coming and doing work in this country without having a physical place. What they do is they come and go to the provinces. Birkama is not considered a province, but we've worked in Birkama. Even at Serakunda clinic, the Sheikh Zayed, we've had works there with the doctors as well. So we go to the provinces and work. But because of the good work that we do, the free medical services that we offer, it was deemed wise to allocate us a place to be able to station in this country to help the citizens of the country. We all know we have a dilapidated healthcare system. So anybody that comes with anything that really is more sophisticated or more advanced than what we have, I think we should all welcome it. And that was what was existing so when that happened, the land was allocated, that all the processes were done, the lease was done, the NGO status, the memorandum of understanding was done between the organization and the Minister of Health. So basically the hospital was in full-fledged, it was operational, and people are now remembering when they visited at hospital the kind of services they received and how beneficial and helpful it was to them compared to what is existing right now. So people remember, and people are coming to us and tell us, I've been there for this, I've been there for this. So people are talking about it. It's not like we are just saying or assuming. It was in existence. President Jammeh inaugurated it when it was built because it was a vast bare land. It was allocated, we fenced it all over and built the structure. And apparently it was supposed to be in phases. That was just the first phase, and equipped in the tune of in excess of $1.5 million of equipments. So you can imagine what kind of equipments were in that hospital and what good they were doing to Gambia and Gambians and people that live in the country.
Yet these people were kicked out of the government, of the country, sorry. What did you do to warrant the former president to, deport the previous officials who were running this organization?
Lamin, you are telling me you are like water is wet. We all know water is wet. The former regime, do they give a reason for their actions? All we could associate this with, because the timing, it was at the time Jammeh started that AIDS alternative treatment in 2010, thereabout. It was around the same time that they were just abruptly, arrested. They just walked in, went out for their own business, came into the complex, walking halfway into the complex, the NIA just barged in and told them they were under arrest. So they took them away. 3 days into detention, 2 days, the third day, they were flown out of the country because they're Koreans. Without doing anything. They were Koreans, but U.S. citizens. So the U.S. government intervened, so they were flown out of the country about after 3-4 days or so. So they were taken out of the country. So since when they left, it was that. Nobody had access. The soldiers took over the property, sent everybody away, and that was it. Nothing else. We didn't know until 2017, when this government took over in 2016, their first trip to New York, they were the ones that reached out to the founders, apologized on behalf of the Gambia government, and of course, blame everything on Jammeh because it was a dictatorship government, and encourage the organization to come back because they said they know the good services this organization was rendering to this country. And let me tell you what, they sent a delegation to the alkali of Bijilo, but the alkali said to them, categorically clear, leave them alone. I know what they have done to the people of this country, especially people of Bijilo where I serve. So if they want to come back, we welcome them, we want the services.
So now you have the state give you this land, now the state wants to take this land from you and use it for another purpose.
Well, we don't have a problem with that. We are aware that state owns every land in this country, all right? And we have a constitution that governs the operations of everything anybody does in this country. But that constitution that gives state to take back any land from anybody also gives powers or guidelines to how you take that land back. You cannot take a community property for an individual use. It's against the Constitution. It's against the Land Act. We are aware of that. We're not saying don't take it.
Is the OIC individual use?
Of course, it's not. They're hiding behind the OIC. The honest truth is, it's not anything to do with the OIC. Yes, they want to build a hotel for the OIC, but the hotel that they build it.
Part of the OIC?
No, hold on. No, it's not a part of the OIC. They claim it's the OIC, but the real truth here is they have signed a contract with a private investor, and then the government is going to put the land. Okay, the investor will use the land as collateral to go and look for financiers to finance this hotel. That is what is happening, and that is the truth. The documentations are there to prove that, and that is what we use in the courts to substantiate that what they're claiming, because they wrote to us and said they're using it for presidential villas. But they've contradicted themselves over and over and over, and the records are there to prove that. So we were able to prove to the courts that what they're saying is not it, and this is what they want to do it. And the courts looked at it and were able to see that our intent supersedes theirs. So they gave judgment and say give them back their land to go and do their business. But this is the truth. They're hiding behind the OIC. The private investor will build a hotel. They use it for the OIC if the OIC ever holds. Then after the OIC, he continues to use it as a private hotel. But that is ridiculous. In this country, we've just seen weeks back or days back, that was just the latest. Nurses crying on top of their lungs. 4 babies on a bed. Their mothers are on the floor. So who wouldn't want a hospital in this day and age? We have hotels that have been closed for so long, but the pandemic COVID has hit so hard that hotels are not working. You know, they're not making business. A lot of hotels have been closed for years, 2 years, 3 years. If you want to help development, local businesses, okay? And by the way, this investor is not a Gambian. So you're not helping Gambians develop. You're not helping local businesses, local investors. You're helping foreigners who will come and invest here, then take it back to their countries and develop their countries. So if you want to help the countries, harness the resources of these countries, develop the country, invest in the local businesses. There are so many locals, Gambians, who own hotels but are struggling to run it, especially when this pandemic hit. Invest in those. Change those hotels to 5 stars. You can do it. Then we will have 5, 6, 7 5-star hotels in this country. It only adds to the development of the country. Why are we looking for 1 5-star hotel or 1 presidential villa? We can have 2 or 3.
So are you still going to, let me use the police's word there, trespass into the property? Are you still going to go there?
No, I am not trespassing. I am going into my property that I legally own. So I mean, that's the word they use. I don't buy into it. I don't think it holds water. It's water under the bridge. I go to my property that I own. So I walk in there legally. Anybody that is there, they're squatters. They are the ones trespassing because they don't have the authority. I don't give them right or authority to be there. So they're the ones trespassing, and they're the one legally there. I mean, illegally there. I own the property. So when I walk in there, it's my property.
Thank you, Neneh. Thank you.
Thank you.